connection. So this is the Dots, which is a website to find creative briefs, other creatives as well. So we had the idea that a computer would be automatically seeking through the dots to find things to present to you.
And the
chat.
Physical chat is like essentially like what we sort of briefly touched on about how, again, like, because it would be an agency that was just manned by two individuals, and then they would build essentially project teams around themselves, which would boost them up for each brief. So say me and Stefan needed like a heavily sort of like film-based project or a heavily graphic design project, then we would source different creatives that were freelance from that, using almost like a new modern day creative sharing site like the Dots. And then this would be like a almost like online real-time creative sharing chat. So you could just upload like a message of like, oh, I'm working on a brief like this, I'm trying to think of some new creative ideas, what do you guys think, can anyone help me on this? And they're like, yeah, can you help me with this, blah blah blah. And then it's just sort of like an ongoing conversation. To be honest, it's really down to you guys what like you made of it, and like what you would like, if anything, add to it, if anything, like what you, as a lot of you, like people in the advertising industry or people that are students in the advertising industry and want to go into the industry, what you would think would benefit you in the future, and what ways you think like freelance work especially would change. I mean, like I look at you, especially Jordan, like doing something like magazine publishing and stuff like that, how like especially like the print sort of realm is like evolved and stuff like that, and how you think like especially taking sort of articles online and stuff like that, how you would think to sort of progress your future, just in general. Like there's literally like no wrong answer. It's get talking, guys. Literally just anything. You can literally just tell me what your weekend was like.
In terms of AI, do you think that would replace anything with them?
It's really hot.
I thought you were going to turn it on.
It's getting intense. No, in terms of AI taking over certain roles, do you think that would implement the models in any way?
Yeah. So do you think AI would take over certain roles? Because this
Well, I
role
was
is sort of like
thinking this.
marketing, planning, it's sort of like verging into that.
So I was thinking this thing that you were swiping
Yeah.
with all the briefs. I'm thinking, is that like an AI thing, right? So it like matches your specialty and then brings up the briefs that would suit you, and then you go and find.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was sort of an idea, but as you said, it's all open. So this was sort of how we presented it, but we did keep it open to another interpretation. Like maybe this machine could have just been briefs that are directly sent to you from clients.
Yeah.
And you have this like very close relationship with clients where almost is when they get their brief, you get it too.
Yeah.
So it could be taken as other ways as well.
Yeah.
I think for us it's like there's no right answer, because obviously like it's 10 years in the future, like you wouldn't be able to say anything in the future. It's more just like if you just sort of like, we could even go around and just say like, if you think about like what professions you guys want to do in the future, how do you think they would work? Do you reckon they would be sort of like more freelance based, or do you reckon they would be more like, so I'll do that quick. Like if I start from you, Lucy, sorry, and then we'll just go around like really quickly, and you say like what you think your future office might look like where you think you'd spend most of your time working, what your daily routine would be like just like.
Do you think any of the tools that we showed could be used in your role?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it that much, but it does suit. Like, but it's kind of like in films, when you see films about the future, like the. But yeah, I guess it would.
I don't record about that. Yeah, we literally just take it around and just like, sorry.
Next up.
Oh, do I just talk about anything?
Yeah, if you think
literally.
What do you think the future of what role do you want to be, or what role are you aspiring to be, if there are any specifically?
Well, if I haven't really thought about it, but I did have a question about the camera.
Yes.
Yep.
What did you say? It's the clients just watching you do what?
Yeah, essentially that would be the.
But are people going to be comfortable with that?
Well, yeah, that's exactly the sort of conversation we want to open. Is whether something like that is just a ridiculous idea, or if it's something that's a possibility. For example, like there's like truckers in America that are now tracked on every part of their day because they have to abide by American laws and stuff like that. So truckers in America, they watch them and they tell them exactly when to take a break. So even if they're like, say, 10 minutes away from their destination, if they've been driving for 13 hours, they by law, this machine tells them to take a break, and there's no room for maneuver. They have to take this break because it's the way the software works. It literally turns off the engine, doesn't let them drive, sort of thing. So it's whether you guys as a group think, do you think we'd be watched like that in the future, like, or no?
I think if there's only two of you,
Yeah.
then there'd have to be someone telling you when to leave the office, when to come into the office.
It's interesting because the two of you are like enslaved to the clients, but then the people freelancing for you, what do they do? Do they have the same concept, or do they just like work on your couch? It's the interesting part.
Yeah. I think it's definitely like one of the main topics of discussion that we sort of started looking into was this whole idea of like almost nature nurture, which is the idea that like if you take the agency model as it is today, people would be sort of like nurtured as like creative talent. They come into an agency, they find like a sort of like a role model type person who then sort of trains
There's
them
a
up.
very specific way how to progress. There's people to look up to. There's people to look down to. There's this whole structured thing that's been there for hundreds of years, sort of thing. Well,
But
rather than freelance, it's taking that away, and you don't really get as much nurture. But however, you get the best people in really specific and niche things to work on whatever brief you have to do.
And I
So
think
if you had like a really good graphic designer in Madrid, but obviously you can't fly him out because that'd be too expensive. You could just make him do his work in Madrid and keep an eye on him there and get all the work and then
that's
bring it
that's
here.
actually a really interesting point. Like that's like this is like exactly what we want from you guys, is like coming up with almost scenarios where you could apply these sort of workings. Like essentially.
Would he be using the clock in like salary thing as well?
Yeah, again, it could be a connection base where we connect with him like that. So like when we clock in, it gives him a thing and he has to clock in as well. And then it's almost like autonomous working like that.
And I think another thing that this whole system brings is accountability. So it's a way how to put a KPI on creative work. It's a way to say this only took 4 hours where someone else took 6 hours working on it. This one is better somehow through time. So this is all about sort of accountability and the client having accountability on the work you do.
Yeah, I think our other main point would have been about, what's the other one? About like the discussion between personalised media, and we kind of already covered that. Where's the sheet?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What are your roles in this? So you're obviously like you own the agency, but are you like a creative team as well?
What do you? I don't know. Sorry to turn it. I know this is a really cruel sort of experiment almost, but like, what would you say our roles were?
I don't know. At the moment, it seems like you're sort of like dishing out. I don't know, like when you need stuff. I don't know. It seems like you're like a creative team, but then you'll get other
It
bits
seems a bit like you're
involved.
more kind of management and
That's-
logistics
yeah.
side of it, and then
Okay.
you have like people that you hire on like a gig basis.
I don't think there's
like,
going to be creative partnerships in the future, right?
That's exactly.
It's just
another
going to
point
be
that
like one person on their own.
Well, yeah. So essentially, it's kind of taken both of those ideas into play. Is the fact that an agency could just be like Stefan. Like I would just be like almost another player is like, you could think about me as like almost like a hologram of the future. Like I'm doing like, you know, if any of you've been to like on agency tours and stuff like that, or like work experience tours, like you have like a tour guide shows you around and they bother people at their desk. What if Stefan is the only person that's working here and I don't exist?
There is the HoloLens.
Thanks guys, thanks for the support.
Yeah. There is the HoloLens by Microsoft, where they're on about doing meetings where it's like it's augmented reality. So are you listening to me?
I am listening to you. No, that's not the one. You take Hannah's question.
So there is the HoloLens by Microsoft that they are on about. If they released it out to companies, it's one massive selling point that they can do meetings. So if you had a company that was like this, so like you had someone in Madrid, the graphic designer in Madrid, you could have obviously not like virtual meetings, but you have them there in front of you, so they look almost completely like physical.
Yeah, this is something that we also thought about, the idea of like what would be the best way in the future to meet the client, to speak with the client, to have that client partnership. We kind of wanted it, we had our idea, which was it would be quite personal, and there would almost be less layers between you and the client.
Yeah.
But how do you think it would be? Because this is still quite a few layers away from the client.
Well, they have the because like, I went to a talk at Adweek about the HoloLens,
Mhm.
and it's like a step. It's a step forward from the VR, just the VR headset.
Yeah.
So you've got the glasses on, but they look exactly like that. And then you have them there in front of you, looking like they do right now. It's really kind of freaky. But you can have them over in Australia, not fly them over, but you have like a physical meeting. So it's just a little bit more like it's just a bit more kind of progression with it. So yeah, so maybe it is that maybe you can kind of create like a creative agency across the world without actually needing to be in the same room as each other.
But is it really an agency? Because it's like really broken up, so everyone's an individual. So you never work with the same client, you never work with the same creative, you never work with the same video editor.
It takes more of like a consultancy.
So it's more of like the agency's like forever changing though. It's not like one agency, it's just...
Yeah, well, like it definitely could be like, in our opinion, like a dystopian future like that. I know that we've obviously taken a slightly more skewed negative outlook on the things, I think. But yeah, that sort of brings us again to like sort of like our next point, which is about creativity and whether you think this could like, if anything, sort of affect creativity in a negative effect. I know that like another thing that we tried to heavily include was like key performance indicators that sort of monitors, I guess, would like sort of like almost restrict creativity in that sense.
Because if you start putting it down to the time limit, or start making it be about as quick as you can do it, or as quick as you can churn out work, just because there's so much work to be churned out, then it's an idea of, well, does that restrict creativity?
And I think with like things like data analytics and like personalized media taking a big sort of storm here, where you can see like almost very instant measurable effects from like advertising, where people put out an advert and they can see how many people click on it and they can see how many people react to it. But then there's like this sort of opposite point of view where like you're advertising to these people, you're getting a lot of feedback from them, but these people in theory would already go and buy this product because they're already on that site.
Also, like on the topic of personalized media, I think it might take a turn towards kind of, you know, you only being sent briefs that the client knows that you're gonna do well. You know what I mean? Like in a way, let's say you're an agent, like you as a creative partnership, you did a lot of great video ads, and so you don't get briefs sent that are only print, for example, which kind of kills your it puts you in a box and you're always the video guy forever.
So that's a similar of like the nature nurture thing, because that in that case you're never allowed to nurture into this beautiful creature that could do multiple things or learn. Instead you're just put into this box, and that's what you're doing. So we're sort of asking, does this whole setup challenge creativity as well?
The nature nurture restricts creativity as well, because then you don't have room to, like, you only have the skills you have at the beginning anyway, and you never improve beyond that, because you haven't got other people to learn off as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd love to get your thoughts, Christina, actually.
Maybe what I think is that, first of all, I think creativity needs time. So if there is a client actually looking at you the whole time, you're just gonna go with the first idea you think about, and it maybe cannot change because there is the next client. So what would happen? Maybe the people freelancing for you would be the most creative because the good thing about freelancing is that you follow your own schedule, and that's why lots of people love it right now, because you wake up whenever you want, you do 2 hours of work per week and you get paid per month. So maybe that would be the people that are most creative in this scenario, and you would be just like the people pushing them around and like getting the clients for them.
Yeah,
So
again.
essentially, does that make you today's account managers then?
Okay.
Is that the role that you would be?
Well, again, it's like I know. Again, we're being like super cruel here. Like it is completely up to like you guys to decide that.
So it sounds more like a recruitment
agency
more than like an advertising agency.
As much as you can like do creative work, it's not gonna be up to you in the end of the day.
That's really cool actually.
But if we took on this sort of mutilated role between being like an art director, being like a production manager as well, like taking control over everyone, HR, does that sort of make us the entity of the agency, since we're just the people that hire all these actual creatives, and then we take on this head role for the agency, which sort of encompasses a multitude of roles.
But then at the end, what we are doing right now, if we take out the creative part of it, could actually be an algorithm. If what you're just doing, taking client meetings and just deciding who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with based on, oh, I worked with this previously, it didn't work out, an algorithm to do that.
And if you take into account how much AI could take over a lot of the research and planning role, that's all your basics covered. Like there could be in the future this computer that you put the brief into and it creates an insight for you. So then you've got the insight, you just need to get on with the creative work. So then your time's halved anyway. So actually maybe in the future we don't need as much time as we're getting now.
What do you think that? How do you think that would affect, especially the creative side? Because in a world like that, do you think it could be possible that then advertising would become just an algorithm of you just have one poster, one film, one experience, and it's all the same? It's just the brand face behind it is different.
I feel like that would be quite sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not arguing that.
I feel like it could end up, if it went that way, it could end up being like a human-made advert is something brand new. You know, like how an AI-made advert right now is like, oh my god, this was made by a robot. Whereas in the future, it could be like, oh my god, this was made by a real human. Like it could end up completely flipping it on its head,
Almost
and it
like
being like a
CGI
special
and
thing.
hand-drawn
Yeah,
animation.
yeah. It's like,
You know what?
Should have taken it off.
Didn't even phase me because I was totally expecting that.
The other one broke. This is part of the experience. Yeah.
It's a trap.
In the future, everything's broken down. Horrible.
Metaphor. Yeah, I was gonna say could we get a quick show of hands actually of just like how many of you guys use things like ad blocker? So that's what, like 6. You're not included.
Oh, damn.
Seven people. And how many again just of everyone? How many of you guys think that you would care that much if, like Alice said, advertising became sort of like a bleak sort of formulated thing, you could just block it?
Who would care?
So yeah, would you care? Would you
Yeah.
care if that happened? So would you care if
became
advertising just became a formulated, this was advert 1,
Yeah.
advert 2, advert 3?
considering that I want to go into it, yeah, I'd be a little bit.
No, but
But if you take yourselves out from and sort of looking
no,
at pages
even
of
from audience
non-advertisers.
perspective, it's not going to work. Because you need human emotion to connect with.
That's why
humans.
people start using influencers, because if everything's algorithm and just follow one person, the reason you use influencers because there is lots of people looking after that person.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where.
But you could, on the other hand of that, you could surely just have we saw what Rory Sutherland say about the beer adverts, which is a good point, is that if you advertise beer in a pub on posters, you can say that that's really effective because lots of people will be drinking beer because they're in a pub. However,
They already wanted beer in the first
they already,
place, so
why would they come to a pub if they didn't want beer, essentially? It creates this argument of that would be effective advertising, so would it matter if it was just a formulated thing? Yeah, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't enjoy adverts, but
Maybe you'd be, you would get intent of purchase from other means that are not advertising anymore, like traditional advertising, because you still want to experience life and listen to other people's opinions. And if advertising is not doing that, then maybe other things would tell you to buy stuff or tell you to try something new.
yeah.
If all you're getting is algorithm over personalized advertising.
Especially if 10 years ago if you'd say to someone, oh yeah, influencers are going to be such a big thing in advertising in 2018, people would just be like, what are influencers? What the fuck are you talking about? And now it's so different, so it's really hard for us to say what it's going to look like in 2035, because we don't know what it's going to look like in 2019.
Well, that's exactly our problem. It's how do we tackle a question like this when I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow?
I know.
What's scary? But yeah, that's another good point. Is what your guys' opinion on sort of influencer marketing and sort of especially people on Instagram, and whether you think that has any future.
I think it's done. I hope it's done. Yeah. It can't go on for much longer. The bubble has to pop.
No, but I
No.
think the more
Do you think that's due to people?
No, I think the more you make advertising algorithm, the more influencers will work because it's human.
Yeah.
So I feel as long as there's gonna be the over personalized, there's gonna be the influencer, because the influencer is the exact opposite of a personalized advert,
Mhm.
So I would listen to an influencer more than I would listen to a text on pink because
Yeah.
the algorithm knows I like pink.
Especially that you have like, you know, influencers are so much more trustworthy. Like just like people that are being advertised to trust influencers way more than advertising.
I was just going to ask you that as whether you actually trust an influencer though, because essentially they're on the same level.
I mean, I bought my foundation based off influencer.
I think like
That was only 2 days
subconsciously
ago.
you trust a human more than you trust
Yeah.
an advert.
Yeah.
And even like what Hannah just said, like with let's say beauty bloggers on YouTube, you're gonna see the result of what they're putting on their face. You're gonna be like, I want to look like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's
You have those
interesting.
role models in your head, just as a human, as a normal human. Whether Instagram was around or not, you've still got those role models. So if I don't know, if your best friend's wearing a foundation that looks great on it, you are going to try it.
Maybe that's like the future of influencer, that you're like live, brands like pay you to actually walk around in their clothes.
Well, that's what
Like rather than take pictures.
that's what they
also-
do now anyway.
Oh,
They're
well, I
like-
need to get into that.
They're like, but yeah, it's like a super interesting point. Is that that's the way it's looking, and like you could easily formulate that to the extent of it being like it was a robot anyway. Like you could just get a person and just be like, and they could have no care whatsoever about, say, like if you take your foundation product, like she probably, like I'm not saying she does actually, but in theory she might never wear foundation, but you sort of formulate this response, which is the same as the idea of like, oh, well, a robot could figure out that I like pink, say. Like,
You already see it with
But there
ASOS.
is-
They give me loads of recommendations, and some of them I like, some of them are a bit too edgy for me, but you already see it. You already
It's
create
Alice,
a
she's
good
fucking
list.
up
And
the algorithm.
I already get like recommendations every week from ASOS, Misguided, Oisho. Whatever they are.
But you know,
Just based off what I've searched.
don't want to know.
What you said.
Oh yeah, that's weird. What I've
I'm
said.
sure they're listening.
Sometimes it's like
They do search emails, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do.
Gmail, yeah.
Shit, what?
Yeah, even if
Just
you
a
like
Gmail.
type an email in on Gmail, like you're saying something in the email.
Like,
Yeah,
I want to
Google.
buy.
read
Yeah.
on your Google if you feel like.
But that might end up changing with the new data ethics regulation that's going to come in on the 26th of May. I had to write an article on it. But yeah, so that actually might change. So we need to keep that in mind.
Interesting.
Stuff like
Cool.
that.
Is there anyone else got like any other questions or any other prying points they'd like
Yeah.
to?
How would you maintain a consistent quality of work if you always outsource talent? Because now agencies depend on, like, the reputation depends on the work they do constantly, so it's quality all the time. So in the future, if it's a different team every time.
Yeah, so I think again this comes back to or what we're calling like nature nurture, is like, yeah, that freelancers would be there, but like essentially it would give agencies, if they were a small sort of 1 or 2 people led agency, it would give them the freedom to choose maybe even the same people over and over again to build the same teams. And whether that would be a practical solution. A lot of what else we sort of explored was this idea of having just like in-house agencies, and then a smaller agency as like a consultancy, or just having completely in-house agencies where brands themselves just have an advertising department or a influencer department or something like this.
So then the reputation depends on how well you find talent over.
I mean, yeah. Again, it could be. I don't know the answer to that.
Oh yeah, there's no reputation. Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, it was whether
The agency would still have reputation
Yeah.
for the work they do, even though
it's
because they're still the
different
main
every
2
time.
guys that would be
Yeah.
choosing the people. Like, would still be.
yeah. So again, like maybe a future skill that you would need to have
And-
to run your agency would be this ability to
Find
make good
talent.
judgments of finding the right people.
maybe.
Yes, Yana.
Also, you know, I don't know if you've heard about this like LA-based virtual influencer. Like she's not a real person. She's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like an
I've seen it.
avatar.
I've seen it.
And maybe in the future, one of the roles in the agency would be like an influencer creator, where you would just like create this persona and like render it 3D, like Photoshop them in photos and kind of sell stuff through
So
it.
yeah, I think that brings us back to the earlier point of like, can you automate and influence everything?
I mean, some people think she's real.
Yeah. which is
still-
scary as fuck.
She doesn't look real at all. But some people think she
Oh, you've told her.
It's a big
So
rubber.
fake. Cool. I think maybe we've covered. Right. There's one last thing we're gonna get you guys to do, which is like a little drawing exercise, if you guys don't mind. Which is basically just draw sort of a little picture maybe of the office and of me and Stefan, and then and then discuss sort of like just put like a few little labels of what you think mine and Stefan roles were, who we are, and what you think the future agency, what its main sort of like founding, I guess, ethos, roles, stuff like that would be. Have a bit of fun with it. We don't really care. But yeah, I'll give you some paper, get you guys to sit down. Yeah. I'll get you some more drinks.